Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Master Chess Web Show. And as usual, I'm just going to take you through the a little bit of housekeeping here, and show you our website. So, right, so there's the lead chess study, but our website is here at masterchesswebshow.com. And as you can see, we've got our YouTube shows posted up here. And more importantly, we have the schedule. Now, from next week, we're going to put in an extra show. We're going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, still at the same time, but there's going to be 3 shows on our Twitch channel, but only one of them will then go onto YouTube. So you're going to have to follow us on Twitch if you want to see all 3 shows. Now, also importantly, we have a contact form here. And with this, you can ask us any questions.
Questions are starting to come in, aren't they, Nigel?
Well, I did get one, not from the regular channel. I got one on Facebook, which I'm not sure the person who sent it in was aware of our Master Chess Web Show, but I said I would answer it on this show, so I'm going to try and answer it now. Now, let me just get the question up. I'm a chess player with a rating of 1149. How can I improve my chess understanding, sir? Which book I read to improve chess? And I would. Okay. My version of the answer is something like this. It's like how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And it's that you practice, young man, you practice. Now, reading a book can be all very well, but you actually need active engagement. And a good place to start is with active engagement, solving tactical puzzles, doing endgames, playing through complete games. And if you want to develop some openings, then you can play through complete games in one particular opening, which is why I think Andrew and myself have written for Everyman, is because they adopt that format. And also, playing games, you've got to go out and play. Right? It's all very well sort of treating chess as an academic exercise, but that does not make you better. Right? And you can read something interesting in a book, but unless you then use it, then it's not going to do you much good. So I'm all about practical application. What would you say, Andrew, in response to this question?
Well, I've heard this question quite a few times. You know, it's almost as if the questioner is expecting magic. The answer really is probably the same as it's always been, although the chess world has changed beyond recognition in the past 30 years since computerization. It's all about hard work. You know, you've got to put the work in, whether you solve tactical puzzles or you read books or you play chess online or whatever you do. You've got to study assiduously and keep studying, not be put off by setbacks. Just got to keep going. It's almost a relentless path. Yeah, I mean, it's really not a secret, is it, Nigel? It's hard work. It's not a secret. and usually people falter because they can't keep it up, or they don't want to keep it up, or they get distracted.
What would you say are the payoffs if you do become really strong at chess and become like a titled player or a FIDE senior trainer or something? I mean, what is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Well, I think initially you shouldn't set your sights on becoming one of the world's best players. If that happens, then it happens. I think what you've got to set your sights on is really learning to love the game, really learning to enjoy the game. And that should be the main objective. I mean, once you get to that state of mind, I think you're in a position to really go forward. Setbacks can't hurt you. You know, you're very keen on the game. You've got to examine your motives.
That will fuel
this very, very carefully indeed.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you just want...
I think if you love the game, yeah, that fuels the work ethic, you know, because you just can't get enough chess. You know, you do more and more chess. One interesting aspect that I have come across, both in people that I've given lessons to and also myself, is that chess can be like something that focuses your attention. It's like a mini meditation in a way, that you can forget other things that are going on around you, you know, like events in Ukraine. if you look at chess and if you look at some nice games, you know, this is what I found, and I've actually found it very relaxing and therapeutic to get the chess set out, not use a computer, get the chess set out, get a book out, have a nice cup of tea or something, possibly a Kit Kat, and go through some games. And you know, this is one of the objectives of this show. We're trying to show some nice games and chess as a thing of beauty, rather than, you know, something whereby you're just trying to learn lots of computer generated variations by heart. So, speaking of which, we shall move on. And in today's games, the first game is a beautiful game by Artur Yusupov against Gabor Kalai, and it's a Queen's Gambit decline. Now, those who know me will know that the Queen's Gambit declined is one of my top recommendations to play as black at club level, and that's because it's easy to learn, it's simple, it's logical, and it's highly instructive. You can learn a lot of good plans from the Queen's Gambit decline, and we're going to see that happening in this game. We have as black Yusupov as one of the leading exponents of the Queen's Gambit decline. Also, Nigel Short has played it a lot, and there's Bunch, the East German player. He's also been an outstanding specialist, and it's quite interesting how often you can develop an attack with black from this Queen's Gambit decline. It's not billed as an attacking opening, but it is one of the openings which is most likely to give black a kingside attack, and we're going to see that happen in this game. Now, this is quite a dinky little move order by Artur Yusupov, and the reason he does this is he's trying to con white into not playing knight c3 and instead playing knight f3. Now, when you do this, if white was to go knight c3 here, you can do a Nimzo Indian, which not every white player will want to allow. If they go knight f3, then some of the more dangerous lines against the Queen's Gambit declined are taken out. So, for example, in the exchange variation, there are setups where white plays for pawn to f3 and later pawn to e4. But when you've got a knight in f3, you're not going to do that in a big hurry. So now Yusupov plays d5, knight c3, knight bd7. This is another dinky move order by Yusupov, and it's designed against the bishop f4 line when black can play d takes c4. And then one entertaining variation is if white then plays e3. I have even seen this move played, b5, which looks absolutely crazy because white can take it, threatening a fork here. But the point is that black can now do bishop b4 check, knight c3, knight d5. Now, this isn't for the faint of heart, and a lot of people would just play a move like a6 in this position. Some people have gone knight d5, knight b6, but this is a pretty solid move as well. And the game continues. You know, white plays bishop takes c4, black can go b5 and c5. So there's quite a lot behind the scenes going on here with regard to these move orders that Yusupov is using. Now, after knight bd7, white goes for the so-called exchange variation, which involves exchanging pawns in the center, of course. Black takes back, white goes here, black unpins with bishop e7, white goes pawn to e3, black castles, white goes bishop d3, and black goes rook e8. White now castles, and black goes pawn to c6, queen c2.
Can I just interrupt for a second there? The moves c6 and queen c2 have some significance, don't they? Because it's kind of a waiting game. Black is waiting. If you just go back one move or two moves, I think we'll keep going. Right, yeah, here. I don't think there are any major objections to playing queen c2 here before c6, but in general, white is waiting for black to play c6 before he plays queen c2, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, if you go queen c2 here, then you actually have some more plans available. Black can also delay c6 by going knight f8, but sometimes it can go knight b6 as well, or even g6 and knight h5.
I mean, could white be shaping up to castle on the queen side in this position?
Yeah,
that's where playing c5 comes in handy.
Yeah, it's possible. They could do, for example, this move, keeping the option of castling either side.
Yeah,
because when you get this position, then white's most popular move these days is actually h3, which looks really strange at first, but there are a couple of ideas. First of all, white wants to play knight e5 followed by f4, and if he was to play the immediate knight e5, black can do that move. So h3 prepares knight e5. It can also prepare to bring the bishop back to f4 in this position. So if you go bishop e6, now what would happen for bishop f4? If you play knight e4, white can then play bishop f4.
Yeah. And
the bishop has now got a secure retreat on this diagonal. So there's, so queen c2 in this position is normally regarded as more flexible. Now there is one other thing going on here as well, and that is that if black plays, there are lines where white goes castles here.
Yeah.
And then, I'm just trying to think of it. It's not this line. So there's another line where white. Well, okay. Bishop d3, c6, castles, and
you could play knight e4 here, can't you?
You can. Bishop takes, pawn takes. What about? Yeah, you can.
If bishop e4, bishop g5.
Yeah.
And simplify then. Simplify.
Yeah. But there's also things like if you play knight h5 here, then white can take and then play queen b1 and then b4 immediately. There's little finesses knocking around with a delayed queen c2. And also with a delayed c6. So sometimes in this position, black can try to delay c6. For example, if white limbers up for castling queen side.
Well, you can go knight f8, can't you?
Yeah, you can go knight f8
and
look to play for c5 in one move. I'm not sure you'll manage it. And there are also little finesses here too, where you go c6 and knight f8. I think this may be the line I meant actually.
I think I had a game against Vladimir Hort in this very line where I played knight h5.
Oh right, okay, yeah. So there's knight h5 in positions like this as well. Now, if you do it in this one, take queen takes, then white can just castle.
Yeah, right? Then you go g6, don't you?
Yeah. But if you do it when white goes queen c2. Knight h5 takes, queen takes. Now bishop d3 is met by knight f4.
Yeah, and that makes a difference.
Yeah. This is a game between Nick Pert and James Jackson, which was at the time it was a surprise win for James Jackson, but he's since become a very accomplished player. So
White has to play bishop f1 here or something, is it?
well, you probably don't go bishop d3, yeah, or you probably go castles queenside, or if you want a minority attack, you go bishop e2.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot gone behind the scenes in these Queen's Gambit declined exchange lines. Now, well, we could probably spend the whole show just on this one game, but I'll progress a bit. So rook a b1. This is the traditional minority attack plan by which white wants to play b4 and b5 to inflict a permanent weakness on black's queenside. And Yusupov plays bishop d6, which is slightly surprising. The modern treatment here is actually bishop e6. And they often go a5 first, actually. So they go a5 as a prelude, and then on a3.
Yeah, people always ask me, Nigel, you know, should black play a5 in a position like this or just leave it? What are your views on that?
Well, there are pros and cons. When you move the a pawn in these sorts of positions, you introduce a new idea for white, which is often knight a4 into c5. And especially if you go a6, there, you know, it's especially prevalent. On the other hand, when white goes b4, then you get this open a file, which black may think is his, but then often will fall into white's hands because he's got more space on the queen side. So it's all a little bit controversial. Now, the move, if we go back here, the move bishop d6, we'll see is not one of the most popular. It's like the fourth most popular move in the Lee chess database. But interestingly, it scores quite well. I haven't actually looked at bishop d6 for black. I was looking at, I think knight g6 was the line I gave to students.
It looks intuitive, doesn't it? You know, allowing the pin.
Yeah, very, very much so. Now, bishop f5 is an interesting move as well, because what this move does is it looks to exchange the light square bishops off and reduce the number of minor pieces on the board, and in turn safeguard white's king. So what you can often get with this bishop exchange for the knight, the light squared bishops off, is white safeguarding his king with pawn to g3 and king to g2. And that's actually a plan that Keith Arkell has used extensively in his games.
I think it also means that when white goes b4, b5 and takes on c6, the c6 pawn has got one less defender.
Yeah. And you're also...
So it's easier to attack.
Yeah. And the other thing is that the bishop, the light squared bishop, if it was on e6, would defend the d pawn and give white black the option to meet b5 with c5. And you sometimes get that theme. So there's really a lot going on in this position type. It's very subtle. But you see, going back to this thing, what book should I read? Well, if you read about this plan in the books, then a lot of them just show white's queenside minority attack, and they say this is a good plan. This is a queenside minority attack. But to really get to the pitch of the ball and to understand the subtleties, you need to constantly study it and play it a lot. And I've had a lot of exposure to this position type now. I mean, I haven't played it a lot in serious games, but I've been teaching it on both sides, playing training games with my son in it, and, you know, just generally getting quite involved. Also, some of my training tournaments that I run on Lee Chess, these have been, we had about 8 weeks of the Queen's Gambit Decline Exchange. You know, people even enjoyed it at first.
Don't sound so surprised.
But it was quite interesting because I saw some, you know, some people I work with, their understanding really improved through having actually played it in active combat, you know, rather than just like read about it. If you read about it, it's all very well. But
I mean, this knight g6 move, I could see his plan now. He's going to go, he's going to think about going h6, and then, you know, the bishop on g5's got to make a decision.
Yeah. And if you take on f6, queen takes will protect g6. I think
that's very comfortable for black, isn't it?
An important thing.
Here he goes. Now another interesting moment. He plays a6, encouraging a4.
Yeah. Now you might want to try. I don't know if you can play knight a4 in this position, but it very often comes in after a6 to try and put the knight on c5.
So let's have a look at it.
Yeah. So
now, does he go h6 here?
See, there's a game here. h6, as in Igor Stoll against Panchenko. These are two pretty well-educated players.
Oh.
So bishop takes c8, rook a takes c8, then the knight coming to c5, and he'll defend it with like rook e7, rook c7.
Yeah.
And black is still potentially going to build a kingside attack here.
White goes a4, right?
He goes rook fc1.
Oh, do he?
Yeah.
Well, he's going to play a4 anyway, isn't he?
And something a little bit similar.
Yeah, this is similar to Artur Yusupov, isn't it?
Yeah. G3.
Yeah.
Queen h3. And now queen e2, which is probably a good move, bringing the queen over to defend.
What happens there? h5?
Yeah. h5.
I can't see that game, by the way.
I'm going to put it up. Hang on. I'll just insert this.
Again, I had a very similar game against Matthew Turner.
a4, queen f5, queen d3, queen g5, h4.
Oh, that h4 move looks dodgy.
Well, he's harassing white's queen.
I mean, it remains for black to get a rook in the game, like rook e6 to f6. So you have to take that knight on c5 at the right moment.
Panchenko was another great expert in this. He was acknowledged in the USSR as being the guy that really knew the Queen's Gambit declined exchanges black.
And once you played h4, black could even take on c5 and just put all his major pieces on the 7th rank and just say, "How are you going to get in?"
Well, you might get some counterplay. You can always stir up trouble at some point with g5.
Yeah, exactly. You put your rook on e7, queen on d7, and just go f6 and g5.
We now get a very interesting move, b5.
Yes.
To stop white's queenside play in its tracks. And he's willing to accept the weakness on c6. So we now
Can he get a knight to c4?
Well, that may be quite an ask, but you've only got one weakness here on the queen side now, and the big question is whether white can get at it. Now, the other way is if you let white play b5. So if white goes b5, then black can adopt a kind of similar scorched earth policy on the queen side by going ab, ab. And sometimes you even defend the c-pawn with a rook on e6, which can then sort of slide over to the king side and you harass white's king as well. So the Queen's Gambit decline, it's got a dull reputation, but I would say it's undeserved because you often get some very dynamic play with black, as we are going to see. Rook takes c8, ab, ab, knight e2. So this knight is coming to c1 as d3 to be able to control c5. h6, takes, knight c1, knight h4.
Yeah, you'd think with all this simplification that black isn't able to generate much on the king side, but it's, Yusupov plays incredibly well in this game thereafter, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You'd think this is a brick wall, but it's not at all.
Yeah, I think one of the big differences between this and the Stoll-Panchenko game is that white is a few moves away from threatening to exchange queens.
Well, black can put a rook on e6 as well, which is quite significant.
Yeah, that's right. So when we get this around h5, this attack is coming very, very quickly.
Yeah.
White would like to be able to play his queen to g2 in this position, but it's an illegal move.
Well, he could play rook fc1 and queen d1, couldn't he? I guess. Is that terrible?
it's probably going to be too slow.
There's going to be some sacrifice.
He goes queen e2 to
go queen
bring
f3.
the queen over that way.
Yeah.
Which is a reasonable try, it looks like. And so now, if you go queen g2, then black just goes back queen f5.
This is the game, is it?
No, this is your variation.
Okay, yeah, I did annotate this game. It was a while back. I was so impressed with this game. I felt it had to be annotated.
Yeah. So now black is threatening to come in on the A file as well. But if white was to play rook a1, then he's going to drop the knight on d3 to rook takes a1 followed by queen takes d3. So white's other attempts to defend. Well, if he goes rook a1, then black is coming in this way, and now he's threatening hg, bishop takes g3. And if white goes queen g2, there's still queen f5, rook a3
move.
Here, queen h1, rook e8, knight c5, takes, rook f6. And now the this queen doesn't have any immediate prospects.
Do you remember the King's Indian game between Petrosian and Gligorich, where the same thing happened? Petrosian voluntarily put his queen and he got murdered.
Yeah, black's got a pass B pawn here. That might be useful. If you start advancing that down the board with just
the queen watching on from H1 as the pawn walks down.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll see how the game finished here. White went rook fe1, and black played rook over his other rook over to e8, rook bc1, hg, rook h6.
Oh dear.
Rook a1, rook e6.
Okay, just drop back one move there. Yeah. Hang on. So rook's on c1, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what if white goes queen g2? Is that terrible? You go queen f5, do you? Is that right?
You go queen g2, queen f5, yeah. Also, there's rook takes c6 here, but I think black just plays bishop takes g3, doesn't he?
Yeah,
rook takes h6, bishop h2 check.
Yeah.
And the queen hangs.
Yeah.
Just show that line, actually.
Yeah, that's a nice line.
Yeah, bishop takes here.
Beautiful.
Threatening the rook. If white plays rook takes there, then you go here, check. And the queen is lost.
God save the queen.
I think he's going to save her in that position. Rook a1. Rook e6. So now we've got a situation where all of black's pieces are participating in the attack. I think we've mentioned it before that attack is a numbers game. That if you have lots of pieces storming the royal fortress, then there's a good chance you're going to succeed. So queen f5 now, knight c5,
oh dear,
he just takes this off.
What's impressive about this is white hasn't been able to land a single punch on the queen side at all, has he?
Yeah.
Stillborn attack.
Yeah. And meanwhile, black's pieces are really gathered around here. Now, he plays g5. And this has got the idea of g4 followed by tripling major pieces on the h file, which is a pretty unpleasant thing. And it also makes room for the king on g7, which is quite a convenient place for the king to reside. Some people may wonder, they may think, well, isn't g5 weakening black's king? Well, that would need white's pieces to be reasonably active in order to exploit that weakness. In this situation, they're just nowhere near harassing the black king at all.
Could you just retract that move for a sec?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that black's, as you said, wants to triple pieces on the h file. So that will probably mean that he has to play rook h3, rook h6, rook e6, and queen h7 in this position, which leaves the king vulnerable to an attack. So by playing G5, you've got G7 as a bolt hole for the king, and you can actually get to grips with that plan then, can't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's an excellent move, really.
Yeah, it seals White's king side as well, so he can't move any of his pawns to try and get a bit of freedom. There's no F3, there's nothing. So after G5, I think that explains why White decided to try and play G4 before this black pawn came to G4 and just tied him up completely on that side of the board.
Desperate move, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Desperate.
Queen here.
There you go.
He'll have realised he was in trouble, probably wondering what on earth he did wrong to, for things to get this bad. Because a lot of White's moves look very reasonable. It's not like he's played it badly, but, Yusupov has just played better. So Queen G3 now. And, you put a note in here that E4 is probably the best chance. Rook here, and now Rook E3, but this would just leave White a pawn down, and his king is still in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it just helps him to survive longer, That's all.
Yeah, if that's what you want, then this is probably a moment where you want to get out of the playing hall, isn't it? Retreat to the bosom of your family.
Or to the bosom of the pub.
The bosom of the pub. Rook H3, Queen check, king here, now threatening Rook H1 check, followed by Queen H3 mate. So White goes King G2, and now there's a really nice finish to cap off this brilliant game. Queen E4 check, leaving the rook hanging, and if White was to take this rook, then we have Queen F3 check, king here. And if Queen G3, Rook H3 mate, I should put that in as well.
Rook H6.
Rook H6 mate. H3, H6.
Look at that.
You brought up on English descriptive notation. You never get used to this newfangled stuff.
Rook to Rook 3, checkmate.
Yeah. When did you switch to algebraic, Andrew? What year was that?
Can't remember.
Mine was about 1975, actually.
I think Queen Victoria was on the throne.
Yeah. But I was one of the early adopters in my circle of algebraic notation. Why? And just to... because I was a teenager, I also decided to use Serbo-Croat algebraic, which are the same as German.
You used S for knight and T for rook.
Yeah. T for rook. Right. And I had this old book on the Havana Olympiad. It was like one of the forerunners of chess informants. And it was all in algebraic notation. So when I went through some games in this book, I figured out what algebraic notation was. And the older players at Southport Chess Club, it annoyed them, that this brat was using this newfangled notation. And not even in English, it was in German.
Actually, a lot of the top English players used to use long algebraic notation, which Tony Miles was one of them, and Bill Hartston was another. I remember looking at their score sheets, and they're this, meticulously written long algebraic notation. I thought, surely, what's the point of this? Surely you should might as well write pawn to Queen's Rook 3 or something.
When I get worked up during a game, my handwriting deteriorates massively. There's no way I'd be able to fit all those letters into the space provided. I can't even do shortened notation in the space provided when things get exciting. So
the kids at school, always remind me how bad my handwriting is. So if I write something out, they can never read it, and they say, "Why do you do that?" I say, "Well, I'm deliberately doing it so you can't read it. So if I make a mistake, you can't point it out." So my handwriting has always been illegible. Anyway,
right, I'm going to delete from here. So
delete. Did he resign this position? I think he did.
Yeah, he resigned after Queen E4 check.
Yeah, beautiful move.
Right, King G2, Queen E4 check. There we go. 0-1. Okay, I will let you take the lead on this next game, and if you suddenly get an attack of coughing because you're COVID, I will step in.
Actually, it's a lot better today, I'm pleased to say. So now, why did I include this game? Okay, well, firstly, because it was a Scandinavian, which is an opening which I've written about many times or recorded on over the years. And it features a fashionable line at the moment, which is the retreat of the Queen to D8. I see Chessbase have produced another DVD on this subject, calling it the Smooth Scandinavian.
I thought it was the banker's variation.
Yeah, I prefer the banker.
For bankers.
I prefer the banker. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But the Smooth Scandinavian, is that smooth retreat to D8? I suppose that's what it is.
Doesn't look that smooth to me. I don't know what's smooth about it.
I remember the game Fischer versus Robach in this line. Do you remember that? Where Fischer demolished Robach, black played G6.
Yeah.
You remember this? And then did he play that? Yeah, well, I think he did.
G6 in that position looks pretty risky.
And then White offered the chance to take a pawn because there's knight B5 at the end or something.
Yeah.
And then Larry Evans suggested this move, I believe, which I foolishly tried out in a game versus Chakayev, you know, and absolutely got massacred.
Yeah.
And then they thought, well, it's better not to play G6 at all with this line. If you're going to make it sensible, then the modern way is just to set up with something like this, C6.
Yeah, give White the two bishops.
Yeah.
I always thought of these as being a bit grim for Black, to be honest. Because...
Well, I wanted to have a little discussion with you about the small centre coming up, but let's just go back for a second. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the most accurate move order now is this. The point being that after this, you go this, and you delay the move knight F6 for a little while, if you can.
Okay.
And this kind of makes a difference in variations here.
Are we going to just that pawn on D4?
I mean, what does this look like? This looks like some sort of Caro-Kann, doesn't it? Or you know, rock solid variation. Anyway, that is what Black is trying to do, I think, and just set up a really solid position. What happens in this game is similar, isn't it? Bishop's coming out to G4, and then we get this position. Yeah. So, I mean, in general, this is solid but passive, wouldn't you say, Nigel?
Yeah. The main issue I have with this, and also the Fort Knox French, which is kind of similar.
I mean, but players like Keith Arkle make a living out of positions like this. He's got the patience and the technique to grind things out with Black from a position like this. If you've got those qualities, then this is not a bad way to go, because it's devilishly difficult to break through.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, you're probably going to hope your opponent runs short of time as well. The main issue I have is that your main lever is C5, but then that's going to make the white bishops more active, and that's why I prefer the normal Rubinstein with knight BD7 to the Fort Knox with where you go bishop D7. You know, it's just strategically you want to play C5, but that will open the position for the bishops. So instead, you're going to have to sort of, trundle around in some pretty passive position without any pawn break. And so that's my generic issue with all of these positions. The most interesting Scandinavian for me is the 3 Queen D6 and 5 G6 line, which I just wrote an article about for Chess Informant, which will come out in about a month or so. So that's when you've got, and it's been picked up on by
this move, yes,
yeah. So Queen D6, D4, Knight F6, Knight F3, G6.
Oh yeah, there was what was the name of the guy who was playing this? Was it Arishchenko or something like that?
Well,
There was
possibly,
some
yeah. But
Russian
the
player
two
who
main
played
ones,
it.
Vladimir Kramnik has played it mainly in blitz, and Rachmanov, who has also played it, right? But he's played it more serious games. And I saw he wrote in a book, which was published fairly recently, that he had the Petrov as his go-to weapon against very strong players. But anybody under 2,500, he was going to do like this, or the Nimzovich Sicilian, which is quite interesting. Right, that's one of the more interesting things that I have read recently, that you can have like a block and bash repertoire. You block people who are strong, right, and hope they'll get frustrated, and then against other people you're looking to complicate the game and bash them with black.
Yeah.
And with white, you're hoping to be slightly better against anybody.
And what do you do about that?
About that, you play.
That could be quite often a nasty threat in against the Queen D6.
Right.
Oh, there must be something.
Bishop G7.
Yeah, and then I want to attack C7 if I can.
Yeah, I think I've seen something like this. The Queen does get pushed around.
Well, you can always smoothly move it back to D8.
Like a banker. Retreat like a banker. Yeah, the main move has actually been knight B5 instead of knight E5, and then
That's
black.
a nice subtle move, isn't it?
Yeah, black can choose between the adventurous Queen B6 or the banker-esque Queen D8.
I prefer that. It's got a mediocre quality to it, which appeals to me.
Yeah, but it's not. This is not a silly opening. I mean, if we look at the guys that have been playing it down here, then you can see Nakamura. Well, he lost. TL Petrosian also lost. TL Petrosian won against Karyakin, who's been in the news lately. Nidich beat Rachmanov. Well, it hasn't done awfully well, but that's because the white players have been very strong. Right, as soon as we get down to slightly weaker white players, we've got Sergei Tivyakov, ratcheting up a nice little solid plus score with black in those final games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it may be that the better choice, if you're going to play Carlsen or something, is the Petrov. Right. What would you play against Carlsen if you had to play him? Or are you going to keep it a secret?
Well, I wouldn't play the Latvian.
Yeah, maybe the O'Kelly Sicilian.
The hippopotamus, surely.
Yeah. You play in blitz, then it's probably good to have something whereby your hand is close to the clock after you move the piece.
Right, let's crack on with this game. Let's crack on.
Okay.
We're never going to get through this show. So, we get this position. Now, the knight on C3 in the Scandinavian is always a controversial piece. Is that well placed or not? You often see white trying to get rid of that bad piece as early as possible by playing knight E4. Castles on the queen side here. That tends to give black chances. Black can bring his queen out to A5, his bishop to B4, and maybe queen A5 already. We look at the players in this game, Kovacevic versus Georgiev, two very strong players. I just can't help but feel castles on the queen side is over-ambitious. Is it already time for white to play knight E4 and just go for a slight edge with the two bishops? I mean, admittedly, this is not the most thrilling position ever seen, but I mean, white can play on, can't he?
Yeah.
And on, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. But the exchanges do help free black's position a little bit. I mean, I think at club level, then this is absolutely fine. You
Well, below Super Grandmaster level, because you're going to have to be a kind of genius of technique to grind this out, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I mean,
you see players like Artur winning games with black from this type of position because they just know where to put their pieces.
Yeah.
And for white has a very slight edge to start with, which is gradually diminishing as the game goes on. Yeah, I mean, so for club players, this is if you've got patience, you know, it's ideal because you can just grind on, can't you, without too much danger.
Well, this and the Queen's Gambit declined. You just sorted with black. You don't need any more.
A boring repertoire for the rest of your chess career. Got some mileage in a book.
Yeah, a till death opening repertoire.
Yeah, and thereafter. Castles. Bishop b4. Bishop d2. I mean, this is not an interesting game. It just shows the possibilities for black in a position like this. And now white gets very overambitious. Having said that, is he better here? I'm not so sure that he is anymore. By castling queenside, he's certainly given black some chances.
Oh, yeah. So a nice target over there. Even if you don't play c5, you can still go b5 and a5.
So what is the problem with g4? Well, can't black just take the pawn? And he did. And now, of course, we've got a completely different ball game here because white's got to force the pace. My own impression is that he doesn't have anything like enough for a pawn. What do you think?
Not now. I would have thought he needed to play g5 a bit earlier. You know, g5 and h4 and try and open a file.
Well, yeah. Something like this.
Yeah. Because you in order to have the light square bishop active, you can't have it biting on the granite of all these black light square pawns, which are in such a nice chain. I mean, if you could get your pawn to g6, then you may start opening up the light squares.
This looks like a better shot, doesn't it, than what happened in the game?
Yeah.
No, it's hard to judge. I'm sure White's got compensation.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting that Kirill Georgiev had played this line with black. And, I mean, he's been known as an expert on the Najdorf.
Yeah. But he's also got brilliant technique, hasn't he? So.
Oh, yeah. Fabulous. Brilliant player.
This would suit him, you know.
Yeah.
In the sense that now pawn up, he can gradually grind out the victory.
Yeah.
The other guy seems a bit discomforted by the fact he's actually a pawn down now. It makes you wonder whether actually it wasn't some sort of blunder.
He could have spent the morning preparing for the Najdorf, only for the banker's variation to appear. Burning the midnight oil.
Smoothly taking him to the cleaners.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent $300 on the cloud engine last night, and he's played this stupid banker's variation.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I mean, the only thing keeping... let's have a look at this position. What have we got? A middle game where black's a pawn up, opposite colour bishops on the board. So white will be looking to generate an attack. Black... I don't see why he's just not a pawn up.
Pawn up with a better game. White's king looks the more vulnerable.
Very solid sort of setup. Where are the weak points in black's position? H7, F7 seems to be able to cover those points. White, there we are, G6. That just blanks white out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, with opposite colour bishops, you ask, can he win? This is the question. I mean, there are going to be some drawing chances here as long as white doesn't do anything foolish. It is a long game, but it's quite interesting in many ways. The way Georgiev patiently neutralises all the ideas.
What time limit was this game played at?
I think it's a classical game.
Okay.
I'll have to take a look at that, but it's got the feel of a classical game. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that pawn sacrifice. Maybe it was a quick play game, but I don't think so. And now, of course, the initiative's changed hands. Black is the one pressing. And when you've got opposite colour bishops on the board, you don't want to be defending a pawn down. So really, it's just a long grind. And that was the last move, I believe. Or was it? No. A few more moves. I think he did play Queen E3. Yes, he did here. That was it. And then White resigned.
Right, because the threats of mate. Yeah, well, that's pretty interesting. I mean, the Scandi is again something that is. I think one of the things about it is you've got so many different ways to play it, and a lot of these choices are with black. So you after D5 takes, you can play knight F6 or queen takes D5. Right, and if we go queen takes D5, then after knight C3, there are at least 3 very reasonable lines for black with queen A5, queen D6, and queen D8. And I think one of the reasons why this is the case is that black has already taken out white's ability to set up a pawn duo in the centre. When you do that, when he can't get pawns on E4 and D4, and then possibly a pawn on E5 as well.
Well, you could try this first, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's quite a reasonable thing.
And then go for D4 and C4.
Various options.
Yeah.
The
Scandinavian remains a very good possibility for club players, and at the highest level, possibly more of a surprise weapon. It remains valid, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Well, I think we'll pass on to the third game, and over to you, Nigel. Well,
okay, thank you very much. And this is we better go back to the start there. Right, well, this is a Budapest, and as you may know, Andrew wrote a book about the Budapest, and I'm very intrigued. I may yet try and acquire a copy of that. But this is the line, D takes C5. Now, I think we had a conversation about knight E4, and you thought it wasn't probably very good.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, I played it extensively in Blitz. But the trouble is, even in Blitz now, everybody seems to know the refutation. Well, not the refutation, but the line which causes black most difficulty.
Yeah.
And that really surprises me.
Yeah, so what, A3 here?
How do these guys know this back to front, you know? I mean... I can't seem to work it out. And this guy graded 1500 suddenly starts bashing out the refutation, you know. It's baffling. Right.
Well, we've got E3 here played now. Knight takes E5. Yeah. And now, one move I've come across is knight H3 in this position, which I think is a pretty interesting move, just to bring the knight to F4. But what happens here is the astonishing pawn to F4.
Now, the reason I showed this game was, or I wanted it included, was that I didn't cover this much in the book. It's a very modern treatment. And I think the reason it hasn't really hit the forefront of anti-Budapest ideas is that it's such an ugly move. It's a hideous-looking move. But at the same time, it appears to be very effective. And the idea behind it is that, well, if we just take that back, if you forgive me for a second, there's a line here called Alekhine's variation, where white plays F4. Now, if we compare this with the line we just saw, all that's happened is that white's pawn is on E3 rather than E4. And you'd think that would favour black. But remarkably, the games that have been played in this line show that actually by delaying E4, white actually gains. He gains in some sort of flexibility and attacking possibilities. And this also encourages black to, you know, make mistakes. It's a very strange line, as we're going to see from the game that Nigel will demonstrate. because it is most unorthodox right from the off.
Yeah.
What would you play as black here?
Well, I would be tempted, and this is very un-Budapest-like of me, I would be tempted to exchange a piece with Bishop b4 check.
That's been played, hasn't it? Quite a few times.
Yeah.
And then what do? They take with the queen, don't they?
Yeah. And I would say it's going to be better for white, but I've traded a piece. So, and then I would bring the knight back to this square.
And you can castle.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put it? C6?
Yeah. C6 and play D6 and knight D7. Try and play knight C5 or something. But I know that black is worse in this position.
Well, sometimes they do something like this,
Yeah, you could do that. Knight A6, knight C5.
How much worse is black? That's the thing.
Somewhat.
Yeah, it's the appreciation of these positions is actually quite difficult. Black's so much worse. I don't know.
Well, white can put his knight on D5 at some stage.
The problem with this for black is it's not really why you play the Budapest, is it? It's not very exciting.
Yeah.
It's really unexciting to play that position after the check, but might be the best move. Grandmasterly judgment there.
Well, I hope. I could see myself losing in that as well. Or I would play the knight back to C6. The reason I don't like this way is because the knight doesn't seem to have many prospects from this square. It's it's the pawn on F4 that looks annoying.
Well, there's a definite prospect of it being attacked again, isn't there, quite quickly?
Well, this next move is actually astonishing. It's pawn to H4.
Yeah. That is...
that looks like
way, Nigel. That's the modern way. You better get used to it quickly.
I can see myself just playing the Queen's Gambit declined in the banker's variation. Having done with all this other stuff. Well, it looks like it has to be an engine move. I would have thought. I don't know if that is verifiable, but it's been played in several games.
Mm.
The key question is what happens when black takes this pawn off?
That's happened in the game, correct?
That's happened in the game.
I mean, if we look at the ratings of these players, what have we got here? We've got a 2,500 playing white and a 2,480 playing black. So these guys are strong players. Knight takes H4. Okay, well, carry on. It's getting more and more bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, knight C3.
Am I not wrong in thinking that if black gives a check here on B4, you go King F2? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that's what's been played.
You have to show that because that's weirder and weirder.
Well, it's a game between not incredibly strong players. Black was. Oh no, it is strong players. Right, Bishop B4 check, King F2, Queen F6, Queen D4. And again, I'm just, I'm just gobsmacked by all these moves. I suppose that either your bishop or your knight, your minor pieces are in trouble when he takes off. I can understand him playing pawn to D5. Then white played H5 in this game. Knight back here.
Random stuff.
Knight C3. I mean, I just don't understand chess anymore. But I mean, these moves look some kind of engine.
Well, let me help you. White should play pawn takes bishop here.
Yeah, that's what I thought actually. Oh, he does. Right, bishop E6, CD, bishop takes, bishop A3.
White's much better, no?
Well, I guess so. I mean, two bishops.
Black's king looks a bit vulnerable.
Ace.
That dark square bishop has got a future, I think.
Well, black takes it straight away in the game.
This is so bizarre, isn't it? It's so bizarre.
He brings his knight back. So now white has gained a bunch of time for his development. Knight F3, I understand. Right, that's develop knights before bishops. Knight C6. pawn to a3. I suppose he wants to do what? Queen c2, bishop d3.
Didn't have the strength to play a4.
I'm even surprised by e4.
Well, this is what I said earlier. It's going back into the Alekhine variation, but it's like a turbocharged version.
Yeah, with an open H file. Oh, so the natural move for me here would be Queen c2 followed by bishop d3. You know, menacing some knight g5 maybe. Yeah, well, look at the castle queen side where we have some pawn cover for our king.
By playing Queen c2 first, you also sidestep bishop g4, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you could play bishop d3 first.
Yeah, so that's my intuitive move. Like maybe I'm threatening knight g5 there. I mean, I would say now that white has for sure got some promising play for his sacrifice pawn.
I'll tell you what, most Budapest players would not play the opening to get into a position like this.
No, they want to be a pawn down.
It's full defence.
The attack.
Not a pawn up. I mean, that's sacrilege.
Bishop e7, queen c2. Bishop takes f3, g takes f3. Now, I would have thought here that white has got a large advantage.
Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, this game just gets weirder now. Bishop h4 check. King d1. Bishop f6, queen d2. What's going on with queen d2?
Wants to make room for his king.
Oh, right. Oh, right. He's gonna castle by hand.
I knew I had my finger on the pulse of modern chess.
King c2. Now we get this. Huh? Huh? Here, knight b3.
A well-travelled king.
Queen e3. Knight takes a1. King takes a.
Okay, now, who would have forecast where the king would end up?
What's the body count here? It's white with 2 minor pieces for a rook and
2 pawns.
2 pawns.
But white's got all the play.
Oh, yeah. The 2 minor pieces are much stronger here.
Where's black going to put his king?
Yeah, good question. Pawn to c6. Well, that makes a target on d6. Bishop h3. Queen e7. Now he goes c5. Again, a move that, well, I understand the point. Why? A dc e5.
Yeah.
c5, if you go bishop takes c3, I suppose the idea is queen takes c3, hitting g7.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, after all of this, the position is a mess.
It's a very strong move, c5, isn't it?
Yeah.
What does he play? Bishop e. Could he play bishop e5? Is that so stupid?
Bishop e5. Yeah, then I guess he takes on d6, does he?
And then we take back with bishop takes, I think.
Yeah. And you can at least take and play e5 and knight e4, probably.
I might be threatening to sacrifice on a3.
Yeah, but okay, bishop e5. Let's take this. Takes back.
Now, yeah, queen takes is impossible because of rook d1. Is that no? That's not right. Queen takes. Why not?
Yeah, queen takes. Well, what about pawn to e5?
No, I don't like this at all.
Yeah,
I was thinking of the other way around. Yeah, no, disgusting. But I was thinking of the other line where can't we take with the queen on d6?
By the way, I'll just point out the tactical point, just to show that I've still got it. Knight d6 check, winning the queen.
There was never any doubt, Nigel. You still had it.
So
it's a bit like COVID. Don't spread it.
Yeah. So d takes c5, e5. Yeah, I mean bishop on h4.
It took a pawn the last time, if I remember correctly. Somebody took a pawn on h4.
Castles, bishop f5.
My God, look at that.
Okay, well it looks hopeless for black. Yeah, takes h7 check. So then if king takes, do you play knight f6 check?
Bishop g5 looks pretty strong.
Yeah, that's true. The knight f6 check, gf, rook takes h4 check, king g7, queen g1 check, king f8, rook h8 mate.
That's not bad. Keep taking the tablets. Keep taking the tablets.
Well, man, for better brain function. So,
puts my Kit Kat to shame.
Okay, bishop takes h7 check, king here, bishop f5. Now he can't move the bishop anywhere.
I would defy anybody watching to say this wasn't one of the weirdest games they've ever seen.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? Right. So now he can't take the bishop on g3 because of rook h8 check, king g7, queen h6 mate. And when he goes there, simply queen h6 check.
Oh my god!
Bishop takes there.
Knight f6 could be quite tasty.
Queen d7.
No, queen h8 mate. Thank you.
Queen h8 mate. I mean, that was just, you know, unbelievable.
Yeah, like chess from another planet.
But it could be the influence of computers on players now, because the engines will suggest like a bunch of you know, very well calculated but weird moves. And I think one of the problems is that they're often suggesting lines where you get to a position and the computer's got it like a +6 or whatever, and you think, really, what's happening? and it's very difficult for humans to work out the moves that will then turn that +6 into a point.
I mean, this move is particularly amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's crazy. Shall we briefly put the engine on at this point and see what it comes up with?
That's sacrilege.
It's saying knight c3, right? So it maybe we need it on a maybe.
What about playing h4? Let's play h4.
Right, it still loves it.
Loves h4.
Yeah, it's got plus 0.8.
Mm.
Says h5 for black. I'll switch the engine off. It's just not us. So,
give you brain damage.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. A really weird game. So we've had one extremely good game. That was Kalai against Yusupov. We've had a banker's variation played by Kirill Georgiev, which is a pretty good advert for playing that way. And then we've had the weirdest game I've ever seen with this Gumalars against Swaden. Right, and it's just very, very strange.
Yeah, this F4 line, this could be the new way against the Budapest, you know. Because it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah. But I think moving on, I think we are about to get affiliate status for the Master Chess Web Show. We've got a number of followers, but we're looking to to get more. So please follow us. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like our videos. Even if you hate them, please like them anyway. Because this is, you know, because then we'll be happy. And from next week, we're going to have 3 shows. We're going to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all at the same time, which is not suitable for anybody. In the UK, you're at work, and in the US, you're still asleep. But we're going to have them at that time anyway, because it suits us. But you will be able to get the recordings if you're following us on Twitch. So that's what we're going to be doing from next week. 3 shows a week, and we might be doing something else at some stage. We're taking it in baby steps, you know, just while we get used to this whole new universe. So, yeah, right. So it's a goodbye from me. Have a good few days, everyone.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to the pleasure of your company in the future. Okay. And thank you, Nigel. Well done. You got through that last game. That was impressive.
I think you put that game in deliberately.
I would never do a thing like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers then, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.